Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Chrissie Mayr podcast. We are on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, and SoundCloud. And if you're listening to us right now on iTunes, please go and leave a 5-star review. I appreciate the reviews so much, and I will read it no matter what it says. Quick shout out to our sponsor, Cushy Dreams. Cushy Dreams is my place to go for CBD products. Here, I love the website. I'm just pulling it up for y'all. Cushy Dreams offers a full lineup of premium smokable CBD. They specialize in extraordinary CBD-rich hemp flower, aka bud, in cans and pre-roll CBD joints. I love their product. I'm like a joint girl because I can't be bothered to smoke out of a bowl. I'm a lady. That's why I really like these 5-pack CBD hemp pre-roll joints. It looks, feels, smells just like marijuana, but you don't get high. You can enjoy all the health benefits of CBD without getting high. There's under 0.3% THC in these products. It helps me feel less anxious, especially after this last year we've all had. It helps me sleep. It helps me just calm down, but also just get on with my day and get things done without being out to lunch. It's cannabis that ships directly to you. It's legal in all 50 states. Join the men and women who are sick of sick of vapes, sick of gummies, sick of getting high from marijuana, and want to just smoke their CBD. They take the artisan approach. Every run is in a small batch. It's 100% hand trimmed, never machine trimmed. They're constantly doing independent lab tests to show compliance and purity. And all of this can be found on their website, cushydreams.com. They've got a whole section on their website for it. Best of all, it's grown here in the USA. And these slow cured batches guarantee maximum freshness and preserve flavor and cannabinoids. They come in specific indica sativa blends like Dream, Hustle, Energy, Create, Relax, Peace, like whatever you want to do with your day. Cushy Dreams has a strain for you. So go to cushydreams.com right now. That's KUSHY and get some high quality CBD bud. At the checkout, use promo code CMP for 20% off every order and smoke your CBD. That's right. We're the CBD generation, y'all. Really quickly, got some stand-up dates coming up. I would love to have you guys. We all need to laugh. We desperately, now more than ever. Come see me do stand-up in a town near you. April 9th, I'll be at Stand Up New York in New York City with comedians of the Compound. Then April 23rd and 24th, I'll be at the House of Laughs in Wilmington, Delaware. Then I'm heading to Florida, April 30th, Boca Black Box, May 1st, Lake Park Black Box in Palm Beach. May 2nd, Side Splitters in Tampa. Then Comedians of the Compound is heading to Austin, Texas. We will be at the Big Laugh Comedy Club May 14th and 15th. The list goes on. We're constantly adding new dates. Some of these are with Comedians of the Compound. Some might be by myself. Some might be with fun local comics. We're figuring it out. But go to my website, ChrissieMayr.com, for more details, to get tickets, to see where I am performing. Another quick shout out to our other little sponsor, Lucy. The sponsors lately are all about things to put in your mouth, which I love because this is Lucy Nicotine. It's a company founded by Caltech scientists and former smokers looking for a better and cleaner nicotine alternative. Finally, tobacco alternatives that don't suck. These products were researched and developed for 3 years to be made for people, not patients. And Lucy has a nicotine gum with 4 milligrams of nicotine that comes in wintergreen, cinnamon, and pomegranate. I've tried each and every flavor. They taste great. It doesn't taste like chewing on a cigarette. It's just delicious. They also have a lozenge and a cherry ice flavor if you're more of a person that likes to suck on things. It's convenient, discreet. All these products can be enjoyed anywhere, on flights, at work, on the go, at the gym. It's 2021, time to get rid of your cigarettes. Faux real. Unplug your vape, throw out your dip, and get some Lucy nicotine gum or lozenges. A subscription to Lucy comes directly to your door every month, so you don't have to leave your house. And for all my CMP listeners, go to lucy.co and use promo code CMP to get 20% off all products, including gum or lozenges. That's lucy.co and use promo code CMP at checkout. Also, I have to give this disclaimer. These products contain nicotine derived from tobacco, and nicotine is an addictive chemical. You know what else is addictive? Saving money. All right, go to lucy.co. Get those things. Don't smoke. Smoking is gross. And if you're dipping, blech, Lord help you. Anyway, I'm rambling. I'm so excited to have this gal on the podcast today. We will be talking about a subject I haven't talked about, I don't think, with anybody yet. And so I'm very excited to tackle, really just talk about bullying, which I haven't done at all yet. She is the host of the Blatantly Honest podcast. She's also the author of Blatantly Honest, Normal Teen Abnormal Life, which is a book. That's right, guys. Get into reading. It's Makaila Nichols.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I am so glad you're here. I am such a fan of you. I'm so impressed by you. And like, I'm sure you've heard this on other podcasts. Like, people are always like, oh my God, Makaila, you're only 22. You're so put together. You're so well-spoken. It's like a barrage of compliments. And then you're just like, I don't know what to say. I just am this person.
Pretty much. But thank you. I appreciate it. It was really nice. Unexpected. So thanks.
I like that you have this cardboard cutout behind you, and then people inevitably always ask you about it. And it's of you, which I couldn't tell right away.
Yeah, it's like a really funny talking point, and like I promise I'm not a narcissist. I always say that. I just like, I don't know, everyone loves it, and I feel like if I move it, like people would be like genuinely upset with me. It's 14-year-old Makaila, we're a little bit older now, but she just kind of hangs out back there and watches like everything. Kind of creepy. But yeah, she's there. She's my posse.
It's a great place for a hidden camera, just like cut out one of the eyes and like stick it through.
Honestly, I think you're onto something. I think I need to do that.
And when I say like, people have, well, you've mentioned in other podcasts that you've done that you grew up quickly, which like caught my ear, because usually when you hear like you grew up quickly, it's usually never like a super positive thing. Yeah. I don't know. Unless you're like, oh, I was the oldest child and I had to just take care of my brothers and sisters. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, oh, there's a difference between like you have responsibilities and like growing up quickly. But anyway, I'm rambling. I want to give the people a good idea of your backstory. So you started modeling at 14.
Yep. That was, wow. Modeling at 14, listen, like, I don't know what your opinions are on that, but like, I was competing against women who like had gone through puberty and like they had boobs and a butt. And I was like the little beanpole that was on this board. And I'm like, oh my God, like, I am like very flat. And so it was it was very interesting starting at 14. I wish I was a little bit older, but yeah, I was fortunate, obviously, to be able to do that at 14, but it was kind of like, yeah.
Were you I'm imagining, were you like scouted at a mall or something?
Yeah, it's one of those like really cringe stories. I was actually shopping for like communion dresses for like one of my friends' thing, and we were in Macy's, and like this bald guy was like in the women's section of Macy's, like
who's in the dressing room? Hello.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, like, what are you doing? We were looking at dresses, and I was like, oh, like maybe he's like shopping for a dress for his kid or something. I don't know, but he was just like staring at us, and it was like kind of creepy, like stranger danger. And long story short, he came over and he's like, oh, I'm a model scout, like take my card. And I was like, please go away, dude. You're probably like not who you say you are. Anyway, he turned out to be legit, and I went to his event, and then I was scouted by like a few different agencies and ultimately picked Wilhelmina. So yeah, that was kind of when my career started.
Who worked with Wilhelmina that's really well known? Because I used to watch America's Next Top Model. Was it what's her name? She was like this gorgeous, famous. Was it Naomi Campbell? Was it? I forget.
I could not tell you who's with what agency. I am so bad at that. I'm no longer with Wilhelmina, so I don't know. But
also like you were probably there like long after their time. I'm just thinking of like these classic
the big
like
one,
Sports Illustrated. Yeah, like the big Sports Illustrated. But that anyway, for those of you who don't know, that's like a huge agency. So you were scooped up like right away by a big guy, a big agency, and understandably, and you were also athletic during this time, right? Like you were into sports. What did you play?
So as a very tall human being, I'm 5'10", 5'10 3/4 if we're going to be specific. Like everyone assumes I played basketball. I did not. I am not coordinated. However, I did play volleyball. I ran track. I did like the 800 and like the what is it, a mile. And then what else did I play? I don't know. I've kind of dabbled in like every sport. Am I amazing at all of them? Definitely not. But yeah, volleyball was kind of my main thing.
So volleyball. So you said you were at 5'10 3/4".
Mm-hmm.
Do you know that actually makes you too tall to be a Rockette?
Really?
I used to, who knows? Maybe they've changed the rules. I used to work my very first job out of college. I worked giving tours at Radio City Music Hall, and just because I had like no effing clue what I was, still have only slightly more of a clue, but definitely didn't know like right out of college. I had to memorize a stack like this big of just facts about Radio City Music Hall, and there was like a Rockette section, right? Because you give tours, you bring people through in and out of the dressing rooms and stuff, and like the hallways, and yeah, I remember like to be a Rockette, you have to be between 5'5" and 5'10 1/2, and then you know the way they put the tallest in the middle, and then they go slightly shorter, like all the way to the edges. So that bummed me out because I was not tall enough to be a Rockette, and so now
I'm too
just,
tall.
which is really crazy unfair. I hope that they've updated the. Oh, hopefully they've updated it. We'll see. I'll have to go check on that. And you got, I hate saying like you got into eating disorders, you know, but like I think it's like it's so crazy because like I bet you were naturally just like tall, thin, athletic, and then to still have the modeling peeps be like, yeah, well, we're going for a certain look, and they won't beat around the bush. They'll just say, hey, you need to drop like 10, 15, 20 lbs, make it work. However, you know, I'm sure they weren't giving you, and here's a healthy way to do it. And, or you said you just ended up Googling how to lose weight.
Yeah, like, and you know, obviously with an industry like that, like, and again, like going back to the Rockettes, like there were certain heights, right? So with modeling, it was like you got to be X size for God knows what reason. I don't know. But you know, I weighed like 140 pounds, whatever. Maybe it was like in my 30s. I don't know. It was a weight higher than what it should have been. And they were like, yeah, Makaila, like get to like 118 pounds to 125 pounds. We don't care how you do it. Yeah, so like you said, I went home, I Googled 14-year-old Makaila doesn't know about dieting, or at least she didn't at the time. And it was like, make yourself throw up, like don't eat, do this, like smoke. And no one, if you're listening, don't do that. It's not right. But I did do that. I was doing crash diets. I was making myself throw up, and like I lost weight fast. And like, you know, my parents were trying to do it the right way. Like, you know, I was fortunate enough, they like got me a dietitian, but they obviously couldn't control what I was eating when I went to school. I had a trainer, and so like I'd work out with them in the morning. And so they thought I was doing it like healthily, but little did they know like what I was actually doing to my body, like behind closed doors.
Wow, that's, my stupid phone is going off. Good Lord, I'm so unprofessional. Okay.
Honestly,
I can't believe you 14-year-old you Googling, and then the results you get are make yourself throw up.
Yeah, it's like a thing. Like I haven't Googled that in a while. Maybe I should. Maybe they've updated it. Like, don't make yourself throw up. The internet's like not the best place for advice, I think. Like WebMD, Like
No.
it's just you convince yourself of anything, and like
Right. Everyone has a terminal disease. And you're like, no, maybe you just are dehydrated and need more water. But what's so fascinating about you, lots of kids, and even like I feel like lots of adults are bullied, except it's like we have different words for it. It's like, you know, sometimes they'll call it like, oh, you're being canceled or whatever. But so, what I'm most interested in is how you got into being an author, and especially like kind of relatively at a young age.
Yeah, so being an author was something I never thought I would do. I was like very much, I'm going to be a Victoria's Secret supermodel. Like I'm with a great agency. I'm going to lose all this weight, blah, blah, blah. And then like, I don't know, I just was struggling so much with my own self-image, and I was being bullied in school, and obviously I had my eating disorders. I was ultimately like sexually assaulted too during like all this time. And I literally thought to myself, I was like, okay, like I can continue to like feel all these negative, dark feelings. And, you know, I contemplated ending my own life. And then it was like, I was literally in the shower, and where I do all my thinking, and I was taking a shower, like as one does, right, in the shower. And I was like, holy crap, like, I feel like I need to go to my computer and write, like, right now. And, like, I got out of the shower, sopping wet, like, went over to my computer.
No
like,
towel.
No, yeah, just, like, here I am, world, like, look at me typing on my computer. And I, like, wrote 5,000 words. And I was like, holy, like.
In one go?
Yeah, in one go. Like,
That's
still just like
so cool.
yeah. And I was like, Mom, Dad, like, I think I want to write a book. Like, I think I need to tell people like what I'm going through. And obviously they didn't know a lot of it, what I was writing, because it's not like I'm gonna be like, hey, Mom and Dad, listen to my horrible story about everything, really detailed.
Smell
So
my
they,
puke breath. Yeah, you just can't. Even people with great parents, like you're just not gonna be a total open book to them.
yeah. Until I was literally, and it was the best decision ever.
Oh my God. That's like pretty amazing. Like you must have been like really like channeling or opened up to something, like the fact that 5,000 words can flow through you like that in one go is like, yeah, you're being struck with some sort of inspiration here. And that's really cool that you were open to it and acted on it and didn't, stifle yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. I felt like I got like hit by like a lightning bolt of just like creativity and inspiration. Like people believe in God or not, I don't know, but I felt like some higher power told me like,
Totally. Absolutely. There's no other way to explain that.
Yeah.
Like, God wanted me to run out of the shower and start writing.
Yeah.
And so that was your first book, which was Blatantly Honest, Normal Teen, Abnormal Life. I'm just going to like pull it up on the screen because I am a woman in tech right now and I can work this. Boom. And you can see what I'm going to possibly order for my niece and nephew for Easter. Great. I'm so exposed. Yes, here is your book. This is really neat. I love the cover.
Thanks. Yeah, it was a really cool shot actually. We merged two photos. So like I did this one shoot and it was like, it was all done up, and then I kind of did like digitals for my agency, and I was like, let's like splice it down the middle and show like, oh, here's me looking kind of cute and like done up and normal, and then here's me looking a little bit rough to show like, I don't know, we all wear masks right now more, than ever before. But yeah, so I was kind of like, I want to like unveil that cover of like, here's what you think I am, but like, ooh, like it's not really great on the inside right now. So
and it's not just this book you've written, I don't know if written is the right word, but you've made coloring books like for elementary school kids. Like you actually like, you'll do talks.
mm-hmm.
You're like a speaker. People can hire you to speak at their school, which is like pretty, how did that come to be?
It's so funny how that came to be. Like, I feel like my life is like a series of like giant like LOLs like at my expense. And like I hated public speaking. Like I was a kid that would like fake throw up, literally, not actually. To like get out of like speaking in class or like a performance in drama. And then like here I am, I write this book and people are like, oh my God, Makaila, like come speak at this, come do this, come. And I'm like, like, I don't know. And then, I did my first speech in front of like 2,500 people. And I was like, oh my God, like, I love this. Like everyone, not to be like, everyone's staring at me for a full 60 minutes and I just get to talk and everyone's listening. But it was like a very fulfilling thing. And I don't know, ever since then, I got like the speaker's bug.
Ooh.
Ever since.
Where was the first place you spoke at?
Oh my God. It was actually in Florida. It was at a teachers conference. So that was pretty cool. My photo. That photo was Majestic Theater in Dallas. Super majestic. Obviously, there's no people in there.
Very majestic.
But yeah, that was like another really great event. And I don't know. I love speaking in front of people, in front of adults, in front of kids. Like, and I think the cool thing about me speaking is I just like, there's fantastic speakers of all ages, right? But with me, what makes it so different is I'm so close to the kids in age. So I like to tell myself that like, I feel like I'm their big sister. Like, I feel like it's literally like your big sister Makaila is giving you advice. And it's not like, I'm a 40-year-old person. Like,
absolutely. I remember going to assemblies in like elementary, middle school. It's like you check out immediately when like it's an old crusty person talking to me. And it's like kids can pick up when it's like an old crusty person like trying to sound cool or trying to sound edgy, or like it's like don't talk to me. You don't even know what TikTok is. It's
it's weird. It's just, and I get it. Like I was the same way. Like, oh, speakers coming, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
it's so funny, like, especially with these kids, like, you know, they see, I always do like this walkout song. It's the This Is Me song. Like, "Na, na, na, na." I'm not going to sing it because everyone will cringe and not listen to the rest of the but I walk out and I get the kids like dancing and I'm like, all right, like who's judging me? Like who's looking at this 5'10" chick being like, oh, she's a model and she's kind of hot. And like, what does she know about bullying? And I literally call myself out and they're like, what? Like,
is that how you start? Is that how you start?
Yep.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. So spoiler alert, if you see
Spoiler.
the speech, I call myself out a lot. So
I call myself hot. Sorry, world.
yeah.
That's really neat. Did you, I mean, it's one thing to write a book. Did you feel like that prepared you to do speaking events, or did you have separate kind of mentors for that? Or were you just like watching a lot of TED Talks thinking like, all right, this is how you do it?
Great question. And I gotta think for a second. I pretty much just like threw myself into it. Like my dad always gets on my case. He's like, Makaila, like you gotta prepare. And I'm like, nah, let me just like throw myself like head first in. So I did. And I was like, okay, this worked, this didn't. Like obviously if I'm like, okay, I have 60 minutes and this is the only math related thing I can do. I'm like, all right, 20 minutes, we're gonna focus on this, 20 minutes on this. And it kind of just flows. I feel like that's another gift I got up there, you know, the book and the speaking, like there's something helping me for sure. But yeah, it's just, I did not prepare the way one should, but it just kind of flew out of my mouth and here we are.
Do you bring like note cards on stage? Because sometimes like when I'm like doing a headlining show, which is like 45 to an hour, like I'll bring up like a small index card with like one word which represents each joke, and each joke, right, like could be like 5 to 10 minutes, whatever. It's like, do you have a little cheat sheet that you have with you?
So I bring my iPhone up like a proper millennial. I have like the timer going. So like in my head, I kind of know where I should be like at each time. So as long as my iPhone doesn't close, which has happened to me before, and that's very traumatic because I'm like, oh my God, here I go. I got to pick up my iPhone. Hang on, everyone. But yeah, that's kind of like my cheat sheet is my timer because I know like when I should cut myself off.
Do you feel like you have the same script, or do you like look at the crowd of kids and you're like, okay, I see a kid in a wheelchair, or I see like maybe, you know, this school is like super diverse, or like maybe, I don't know, like depending on what you're seeing, do you kind of cater your speaking? Like, do you go, okay, like, I imagine, because I'm trying to equate this with comedy, and it's like a lot of it is like we'll do crowd work, but I mean actually what we do is the complete opposite, because like I will directly try to make fun of people and you're like, I'm here to uplift you.
That's funny that you said that, because like yes and no. I have done speeches in which, you know, that group of kids where it's like the jocks and the cheerleaders, and like they just don't care that I'm speaking to them, and I'm like, I'm trying to teach you something.
Oh, because it doesn't affect them, because they're already on top, you know what I mean? They have no problems.
Yeah. So one time I stopped a speech and I literally sat on the ground and I was like, I will wait until whatever's happening is done. And I'm like, so these kids, I called them out. Like I literally was like, hey, if you're not going to pay attention to me, like you're a bully, so we can just like embarrass you and I'll just sit here till you're done. And like, I do that. And I think I think I like might've traumatized the kids a little bit from that, because I was like, oh my God, like she's calling me out. Like I kind of felt like a comedian right then and there. I'm like, oh, like I singled someone out. This is really liberating. This is great. But yeah, I definitely like tailor my messaging to whom I'm talking to. Like, especially like sometimes I'll do a speech and I'm like, the first time I didn't know what it was. I was given like this necklace and it had like a thing on it. And so one of the deaf students could hear me because it connected, like it sent to his.
Wow. Yeah. Like a life alert. No.
Yeah. I was like a button. It was like a thing, but I guess it fed my voice into him, so it would be notified when I said something. And I thought it was the most cool thing. So he could participate. And
That's really cool.
Yeah. So
imagine you're like, what is this dumb thing? Ugh.
I didn't know, like, cause even when I was done talking, I was like, oh my gosh, like I gotta get this off because this kid's gonna hear everything. But he was
you wear it to the bathroom. He's like, I heard everything. Nice toots, Makaila. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, the importance of turning off your mic for sure. But yeah, so stuff like that. So obviously I custom tailor, you know, if there's more students with like a disability, or if there was, you know, my whole thing that I always warn the school about is like suicide. I talk about like this one particular story. I like met the mother, and her daughter ultimately died by suicide, and posted on Twitter, should I? And like I think it was 67% of people said yes, and like the other percentage said no.
Wait a minute. The mom did this Twitter thing, or the kid did it?
The daughter did that before.
How old was she?
She was like 18. She was
a Twitter poll. My God.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that was ultimately like the decision, in which obviously there was things leading up to that, but that was one of the last things she posted. And I say to these kids, I'm like, what you say on social media matters, and all this stuff feeds into different avenues. But like, I share that story and everyone just goes silent, because I mean, think of all the polls that you've taken on Instagram or Twitter. It's like, should I go to the mall? Should I get my nails done? Should I do this? But I'm like really passionate about, not to go off on a tangent, but talking about suicide prevention, because everyone tiptoes around the subject, but I'm like,
oh yeah,
what's happening, so we need to talk about it,
especially now. It's like the last year or so has been really hard on everybody, but what a lot of people don't, I mean, people talk about it, but I just don't think enough is being done, like especially these like developing kid years. Like really, I don't know, I think until you're 20 you're still in your like developing kind of kid years. And a lot of these kids, the suicide is through the roof. They've been cooped up. They haven't seen their friends. All their learning is through screens, and it's much harder to focus. It's especially if you're a hands-on learner, especially if like you need someone to physically show you. It's their day is not mixed up enough. And if these kids, if their source of entertainment is already through a screen, well, it's like they get no break.
Exactly. It's horrible. And these numbers, I mean, they haven't been published yet, but like I can only imagine like what these numbers are going to be. Like I'm scared from the conversations I've had with like mental health experts and everything. Like it's not great.
And would they even publish the real numbers? Like maybe I'm cynical, but I don't imagine they would, because I feel like they publish, and folks will skew the numbers depending on like whatever their motive is. So if it's like, if they're not ready to work on it, then they're probably not going to post the numbers. It's just, yeah, what you said about Twitter it's so good that you bring that up to the kids, because most of us think like, oh, well, it's the internet, it doesn't matter, it doesn't count, I'm anonymous. No one really, some people have, they'll have a Twitter account and not their name, it's not traceable to them, and they think, all right, it doesn't count, I'm venting, or I told somebody to go F themselves, or like they just think it doesn't land. And it's good to know the power of social media, but I think on the other side, like, what are your feelings on like, shouldn't we focus more on, not necessarily like, maybe it is toughening up our kids, like it shouldn't get to the point where you are letting a Twitter poll decide your fate. Yes, we need to like, everything you're doing is really amazing, and because you are so young and if you've been through so much, you're in a unique position to reach kids of all ages, and like I love what you're doing. But I just worry, because I've heard a lot of folks be like, oh, I feel like the last decade has been all about like not bullying and acceptance and like telling everybody they're perfect the way they are. And I feel like that message gets skewed. I feel like there's a focus on that rather than maybe the tough love or the discipline behind it. Like, I don't know if any of this is making sense. Like, It's one thing, of course, kids need to be told that they're valuable and loved for who they are, all that. But I think in the last few years, it's become muddled with like, you're good the way, like the messaging I've been seeing is, you're good the way you are, so you don't need to work out. You're perfect the way you are, so don't eat right. Speak your truth, but know that your words can hurt someone's feelings, and like take accountability. And I feel like that is the part of it that needs to rise to the occasion in the way that the positive self-talk has already been like up here for years. I just feel like, is that something that you try to address at all? I mean, it's complicated.
Yeah. No, I agree with everything you just said. I think we live in a world where if you say the wrong thing, you're canceled. And if you say, the right thing. It's like, oh, do you really mean that? Like, I just feel like a lot of it's become so fake. And like, I'm not telling these kids to be like, no, you're never going to bully someone in your life. Like, you 100% are going to bully someone. I have bullied someone in my life. Like, I have been a jerk. I have said stupid things. Like, I'm a human. That's what you're going to do. But it's like, it's the world is basically like 90% of how you react to situations and 10% of what happens to you. So I try to teach these kids, like, don't be a bystander. Like, if you see something, say something, but I just don't want these kids to feel like they have to be robots. And I feel like a lot of them do feel like that. And everyone gets a trophy, which I don't agree with. Like, there needs to be a level of systems and balances to it. But ultimately, it's like, just be nice to one another. Like, I feel like that's what it boils down to, because, you could nitpick literally everything in every sentence, but it all boils down to respecting yourself, respecting others, and understanding that you're not going to win everything. You're going to lose a lot, and that there's always going to be mean people, but it's how you respond to those mean people and how you treat others that defines you. And I don't even know if that answered what you were saying, but yeah.
Oh, definitely. And I feel like there's the focus on like childhood should be like, yeah, of course. It's like, because I know looking back, like I didn't get uplifted by my parents in the ways that I needed. And of course, like when you're an adult, like I'm 37 now, I'm able to look back at my parents and be like, they were not superheroes. They were just people. They were middle class working people who just did their best despite their limitations. And I found like I wasn't getting enough. I don't know. Like, it feels weird to complain, right? Because you're just like, oh, I had a roof over my head. They paid for my school. They sent me to college. I was never hungry. Like, yeah, I got a lot of to complain like, oh, I got a lot of hand-me-downs. I was the youngest of 3, blah, blah, blah. But I just didn't feel like heard. And that's how I sort of eventually got into stand-up, whatever. What was my point? My point was like, I found a lot of success and validation through sports. I think much like you did, and like you also had the modeling too, which is like, yes, it's great for your self-esteem, but it's also like on the other hand, it could crush your self-esteem because you're like, you constantly have to like keep up. But I think excelling in sports is a really great way to teach kids like discipline, sticking to it. And it's like, if you fail, you keep going. And it's like, I feel like that kind of stuff builds a stronger kid so that you're not as affected by like someone's mean words. Like, yes, words have meaning, but like, it shouldn't derail your whole day.
Mm-hmm.
If someone like bullies you, I don't know. I'm not saying like, yeah, punch them back, sometimes that feels good.
Yeah, no, I think unfortunately, like, kids, that saying like sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Like, I think that is like the funniest sentence I've ever heard, because like it literally means nothing. Like, words hurt. Like, but I think it's how you process those words and realize that the people that like are gonna say crap to you are so insecure that themselves, because they haven't found that purpose and that drive that you were just talking about. Like, maybe it's sports, maybe it's music, maybe it's dance. So it's like, find your passion, and if you do your passion well enough, people are going to hate you regardless. And how do you deal with that? It's like, I'm sure you deal with that all the time.
Oh God, yes. Oh my God. Yeah. I find the more myself I become, the more, and it's weird. I find like the more I love myself kind of outwardly, the more I trigger people who hate themselves. Like, you always, like, your relationships are always a mirror, right? And I always think like your trolls are like kind of like the inverse and opposite of what you're trying to attract in your life. And they're like, ugh, like this person doesn't deserve to succeed. They don't deserve XYZ. It's like, I've been fighting my whole life to tell myself that I deserve these things and that I work hard. So it's like, it's almost like no troll can be as brutal as I've been to myself. But that's like an adult assessment. Kids are not able to be like, well, clearly this kid is insecure about his weight, so he's fighting back at me, and I'm being shoved into a locker because he is not getting enough love at home, and I will just keep doing me.
Right. I know. Wouldn't that be nice if we had that knowledge when we were younger? And I think that's like why these numbers are like continuing to rise, especially with like youth suicide and just like depression and anxiety, because like we hindsight's 2020, and we don't have that when we're young. So I think like reminding kids that like it's gonna get better, you're gonna get through it. And just hearing from like their older sister, because maybe they don't have an older sister. Like I'm like, I've been there, you know, I hit the rock bottom and I'm still here, you know. Some days
what was your rock bottom?
My rock bottom, oh my gosh. So again, it goes back to like my own thoughts of like ending my life. I it was to the point where like I would make marks on my Converse shoes, and I would literally like just count the days, like if something happened, if I was being bullied, if I had these dark thoughts. And it literally got to the point where I was like, how am I going to do this? Like, how am I going to like leave this world? Like, what is that going to do to my parents? What is that going to do? And all these thoughts. And I mean, I was saved by a higher power for sharing my story. And like, you know, even the trauma and the PTSD from like my sexual assault, like I deal with that now. Like I get panic attacks like almost every day. And, you know, I go to therapy, and you know, it's okay not to be okay. And I realize that now. And, you know, I'm not always okay. So my rock bottom was like that moment where I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. But, you know, I still hit they're little rocks, but I acknowledge them now. So yeah, my rock bottom was very dark and very low.
Girl, I know all about that. I mean, I remember being like, I would think about killing myself. Like I never got as far to be like, how would I do it? But I remember being like, oh, after just fights with my parents, maybe like between like 11 and 14, like just screaming fights and run up to your room and slam the door. And I can't even lock the door to my room because I share it with my sister, and I just have to like, I have no space. But it's so hard. And in your experience talking to so many kids, do you get the sense that perhaps the parents have slacked off on some of their roles? Because I hear this all the time from my sister, even pre-pandemic, from my sister who's a teacher. She's like, parents, I think, kind of expect teachers to pick up the slack where they either like don't have time because they work full time, or they're too lazy, or they don't care, or whatever. Like they just go, we'll throw them, they'll deal with it at school. So you've been to so many schools, you've talked to so many kids, you get the sense that like, man, like the parents could kind of be helping to build these kids out.
Yeah. For better lack of words, yes, my answer. It's unfortunate that, you know, and kids mimic behavior, you know, it's like monkey see, monkey do. And these kids, like, if your mom is going to be drinking every day and yelling and like passing out, and then just like, you know, treating you like horribly, like that kid's going to have a lot of problems. Like obviously the mom has some problems that she might need, or dad needs to address too, but they're going to mimic that behavior. The same thing goes with, you know, depressive episodes. Like maybe the kid is dealing with this trauma of seeing maybe their parents are fighting, maybe this is happening, and that kid's going to go and take that problem to school, and the kid's going to think it's acceptable to be fighting with their peers, or be like, hey, like let's start drinking when we're in high school because that's what we should do, because I see that at home. So I think a lot of the parents are to blame, because these kids are seeing these behaviors and thinking that because mom and dad do it, it's all right, I can do it. And, you know, the parents can't even address their own problems, that they might themselves have a problem.
And oh my God, I remember forever I was trying to get my mom into therapy, and like not without bringing, like I don't bring the room down, but like she was like, she died from brain cancer a couple years ago. And I thought it was like before she got like real bad, I was like, would love to, she has like a lot of stuff to work out. She could feel better sooner. I was like trying to connect her with the therapist. I remember the day, like I was in Florida, it was me, my mom, my dad, all at a table. And like, I finally got the therapist to like ring her. Right. And then my dad just picks up her phone, goes like, hello, who is this? And he's like, no, she's not interested. And then shut the phone. And I was like, oh my God. It's just like, you know, boomers, man. But like I was so like heartbroken, because I'm just like, fuck, you know, it's so hard to reach out and get therapy. And it's like, she was right there. And I mean, you know, that's why who you keep, the 5 people you keep around you are so important, because they're either going to like help you grow, or their own shit will keep you from getting what you need. So it's confusing sometimes. Like our parents can confuse us, and sometimes I think the culture around us, like what we see, I think can confuse us and kids as well. I definitely want to get your take on this because this was a thing that I feel like a lot of shows talked about. I don't know if you remember seeing like the Cosmo when they had the This Is Healthy with the two, like, I mean, these, like, what are your thoughts on this? Because I look at this and I go, okay, these women are obese, and on one hand, yes, they look happy, which is great, but on the other hand, to me, I feel like this gives, I mean, Cosmo's aimed at like teenage girls.
Yeah.
This to me looks like you're getting a free pass to treat your body like shit.
I watch cancel myself. This is it. This is where I get canceled.
No, please, girl. Blame it on me.
There is a fine line between healthy and, like you said, you're hurting yourself. And both of these women are beautiful, and in their own right, and they look happy, and love the skin you're in 100%. But I think it's becoming very problematic for these young girls to see. So obviously, like, everybody's beautiful. I literally have a coloring book that says that because I believe that. But I think when you're promoting this, not that that's, they woke up and were like, I want to put on a bunch of weight and just eat whatever I want. But that's kind of like what it's teaching these kids, because like it's, whatever, you can eat whatever, you're still pretty. But like, we're not going to talk about what's going on with your heart, and we're not going to talk about the breathing and
your joints.
Yeah.
We're possibly getting diabetes. Like, I mean, you can go to any health person podcast and listen to like the slew of things that come along with like carrying around that much extra weight. And it's like, I feel like the focus should be less from, oh, but she has such a pretty face. It's like, girl, you could have a pretty everything if you just like, you know what I mean? Like, spend a little more time on yourself. Yeah.
I've had friends who, like, I won't call them out obviously, but like they went from a very healthy weight and then just like, put on a bunch of weight, and maybe it's like a thyroid issue or what have you. I don't know the reason, but I feel like every time I see them, they just keep getting bigger and bigger, and they're posting about like how happy they are. And I'm like, that's great and like good for you, but like, are you just, sitting on the couch and not doing anything? Like, are you being active? Like, there's a difference between just like sitting back and like putting on a bunch of weight and like, other stuff. So do you think it might be bullshit? Like, do you think it's like, and I don't mean specifically these friends of yours, but do you think that some of it is like, to me, I see posts and I'm like, I think some of this is bullshit, because like, I know how I feel. Even right now, I'm like 10, 15 pounds overweight. Like, I know how I feel when that's not there. I mean, and I'm like only 5'3". So like when I gain a couple, like I feel it right away. Yeah. So it's like, I know how I feel so much better when that's off of me. I couldn't imagine just like going around saying like, oh, there's such a difference. It's like, I think the core issue is right. Like, the lack of discipline overall. Like, it's easier. And of course, like Cosmo doesn't fucking actually care if anybody they want to make money. And they're like, oh, well, this quote body positivity movement is where it's at right now. So we're just gonna, I think I just see, maybe it's just getting older. It's like, I see so much pandering in this like wellness sphere. I'm with you. Like, even with like the big companies, like, and again, I can't, like Calvin Klein, or I don't know why that one, but a bunch, then it's just, they're having all these different body types, which is great. Yes. Diversity, very important. But like, even as someone that did, that still has a foot in the door in that industry, like, I'm still being told like my hips are too big. I still need to lose weight. And I'm like, whoa.
What about body positivity? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, what about like this girl over here? Like, what are you telling her? Like, why is it that I'm expected, Makaila can't have 37-inch hips, but she can, and like, she's applauded for it. So it's just like, where is that line, and why is that line there? And I honest to God think it's like a lot of just show to make the people, so these companies don't get canceled. Quite frankly, they're like, we gotta do this, hurry, because someone's going to come over here and say something. And I think they're just scared. And I think, that's what it boils down to. I don't know.
It's almost like things haven't really changed because your modelly standards are still the modelly standards. They've just added like this other group calling them models, but it's just to like appease the woke overlords, right? Because nobody wants to lose dollars.
Yeah.
And it's interesting.
I'm just like, I could say so many things. It's just, I just don't understand.
Like, what makes you the maddest of all of it?
It's just like, if you're gonna really say body positivity, like, let the people, not to be like, let me that has starved myself for a long time, like, but mean it. Like, mean what you're saying. Keep it that way, but also like do it in a healthy way. Like, if you want to have, that really diverse body range, like saying, here's some healthy workouts that all of our models do, because, regardless of their size, they're still eating healthy. They're still caring, because sometimes, you can't change the size of your body. And I get that, but like, don't promote just like, oh, I'm just sitting on the couch, like eating every single day. Like, have a purpose, because that's the difference between, drive and just laziness, I think.
Yeah. You and these girls are not doing the same workouts. So it's like, I don't know. Yeah. Don't pretend like that. Because I remember before like this whole movement, like there would be plus size models. Like, remember Ashley Graham?
Yeah, she's beautiful.
Beautiful and like legit a plus size model. And I was like, I'm thinking, what was wrong with that? Why did we have to go so far to now like call like observably unhealthy people, like lift that up to be the model? But it's like, yeah, ultimately it has to do with dollars.
Yeah. I don't know. And Kardashians, I always blame the Kardashians.
They're so easy to blame. Yeah.
Like the big butts, Kardashians.
Do you ever think there's an instance in which bullying can be positive? Because I'm sure you'll meet maybe parents, or maybe as you get older. I feel like I meet a lot of these people like, well, I got bullied, but it strengthened me. And like, I got my ass kicked, but then I learned karate and then I kicked his ass. And now I'm stronger for it. Do you ever feel like there are positive types of bullying?
I think what I say now to kids is that when people, because I still get bullied like to this day, and I use that to like fuel my fire. I'm like, yeah, like keep it going. Like, it's cool. Like, I'm just going to throw it in my fire. Like, it keeps me going. And it's like, I want to prove them wrong. And I think in the instance of like, people telling you you're never going to make it, you're never going to do it, prove them wrong. And like, then you're going to feel so much better, and then be like, wow, like, these people didn't believe in me, but here I am, and success is the best revenge. And I think that, that speaks volumes for people who have been bullied, because, a lot of celebrities like Miley Cyrus, Ed Sheeran, oh my gosh, Megan Fox, everyone, like, they all have a bullying story. And it's like, despite that, they went on to have a successful career. Ed Sheeran had a stuttering problem. When he sang, it would go away. And he was bullied because of that. And it's like, he can now relate to those kids that might have a stutter or might have something of that nature. So I do think there are, in some degree, yes, a positive instance, because you can use it to fuel you. Like, obviously it's detrimental and can really affect your mental health. But again, 90% is how you react to what is said to you. So.
It's like, it's about developing the self, right? Like, when you're strong, when you know your value, when you have like areas that you can kind of like get your frustration out, whether it's like exercise, right? Music, dance, whatever. Like, when you have outlets and you're letting these feelings go, and it's like, you can kind of more easily forget about the nasty words. And like, sometimes it gets to me too. Like, I have so many trolls and haters, and like, sometimes I'll understand, but other times I'm like, why? Like, why is this person like, if only they were to obsess about themselves, like for however many hours they spend taking me down every week. Like, God, if they only invested that in themselves, and then like, I don't know, get a six pack, and then you probably wouldn't need to make fun of me anymore, because you'd be crushing life. Or like, if you focused on your career, and then you were making more money, you wouldn't feel as threatened by my success or some other like female comic. I don't know. Tell me about you're kind of like more than a triple threat. You're not only an author, a speaker, but you also have a foundation also called Blatantly Honest. Can you tell me a little more about that?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So yeah, Blatantly Honest, everything pretty much, because that is just how I choose to live my life. So the Blatantly Honest Foundation started like a month before COVID. So I'm sure you can imagine it was very stressful, trying to get a foundation off the ground. And basically what I wanted to do was create a very young-led organization where it was pretty much like, I'm going to go in, I'm going to speak to these kids. We're going to provide them, the books, the coloring books, to have these conversations early on. And obviously the podcast, because I believe in the power of sharing stories and highlighting, if someone else went through something, that they can, more importantly, overcome that and go on to be a celebrity, a doctor, what have you, anything of that nature. So the foundation, honestly, like, has been such a blessing. And, like I said, during COVID, it was very hard. I'm like, okay, well, obviously I can't go and speak in a school. I can't go and drop off coloring books. And, a lot of the teachers were very overwhelmed with just, I don't know, figuring out how the kids are going to go to school. So I had to get really creative. And as fate would have it, another LOL at Makaila. I was like, great, here we go. I was graciously donated 2 space contracts. So we're actually sending photos of bullied kids to the moon in 2021. I'm also super casual. Wait,
you're sending pictures to the moon?
Yeah, sending pictures to the moon later on this year. I keep saying 2021, like it's still 2020, and it's not.
Doesn't it sound so futuristic?
Yeah, it does. Like, it's genuinely like, it's going to be April, and it's just like, hopefully this doesn't, I didn't just like mess your dates up. Whoops. No, it's crazy. I mean, it's going to take off this summer, and I want to do a big event, but like, I don't even know if I can do an event to like watch this rocket go to the moon. I mean, this is the first time
this moon mission.
Yeah. So this is the first time anything's been back to the moon since like Apollo. There's no people on this flight, but there are like rovers and landers. So like our chip with all the photos on it is going to be placed inside a lander that's literally going to land on the surface of the moon.
What?
So yeah.
Wow.
So stuff like that. I mean, crazy creative stuff. And now I want to like partner with like a SpaceX or Virgin Galactic or one of those organizations, because I want to keep doing this. Because I mean, think about it. Like, maybe you're standing on a bridge and you're like, I'm being bullied. Like, I'm having these dark thoughts. Like, I don't want to be here anymore. And you can look up to the moon and be like, you know what? Like, my memory's up there, my photo's up there. I have to look up at myself. And then maybe you'll think twice before you like jump off that bridge or before you have those dark thoughts. I don't know. The moon inspires me very much. So like, I'm so blessed to be able to do this. And I think this could change the way people think, because bullying makes you feel small. Being a victim of sexual assault can make you feel small, but looking up at the moon and saying like, hey, no one can look down at me anymore, I think that speaks for itself.
Only the moon can look down at me. That's like that's a cool creative idea. The only thing I'm thinking of, like, remember they used to like be like, oh, buy a star. And you'd be like, is this really for me? Like, how many people have bought this star?
So yeah, we're not selling stars. You upload like your photo, and then we put it on the chip, and then the chip goes to the rocket provider. You get like a cool certificate. We're going to drop some really cool shirts to like help us, obviously donate our services. But yeah, I don't know. I think that can inspire a lot of people. And I sent photos of like my mom and dad. So like one day when they're no longer here, like I can look up and be like, all right, mom and dad, like I know your photo's up there, like, and you can talk to them. And I think that's pretty cool.
That's very cool. Do you ever get like individual kids or parents like reaching out to you like privately for help?
Yes. And it's a great feeling knowing that, as I like stutter my words, it's a great feeling knowing that I've made an impact on these people. However, like I'm not a therapist, and I can't say, hey, this is what you should do if you're feeling this way. I'm like, here's the sources that I can provide you, and make sure someone else is aware that this is a thing, because I speak to a lot of kids, so I get a lot of scary messages from kids, and I'm like, what the hell do I do? Like, how do I get a hold of your parent? Like, how do I do this? But then it's like, I'm so thankful in like pushing them in the right direction or trying to help them find resources. But like, it it's grueling. Like
It sounds like it could be a whole nother full-time job, just answering message and directing people, and you go, oh, they've reached out. Like, I can't just do nothing, probably depending on the message.
Yeah.
It's like these extra responsibilities kind of like thrust in your lap. And I know I always, whenever I talk to people about therapy and stuff, I'm like, yeah, Psychology Today, check it out. But I don't have people in my DMs like, needing immediate help.
Yeah. I try to be very receptive on social media, and I have some help, but it's like I want to make sure I provide the right resource, because like, God forbid if something happened, like I would feel like it's my fault. And like, I know it's not, but like, it breaks my heart that these kids truly feel like they don't have anyone to talk to. And it's like, I hope I'm not that last line, but it's like, how can I get this kid help? Because I genuinely, I do care for all the kids I speak to. And I care about their mental health and their well-being. It's like, and I hope I can point them to someone in their life that cares, because there's always going to be someone that cares and loves you no matter what.
Will you ever say like, hey, you should really tell your mom or dad about this, or like,
oh yeah. Like especially like after a speaking engagement, kids will come up to me, and like I always have the guidance counselor there, and like if a kid is very much like, I am scared for this kid, I will give them like a black wristband. And so the guidance counselor will see, so they can kind of make a note. And usually the schools have been fantastic. Like they're very aware of the kids that need a little bit extra watching, so to speak.
That's really cool about the wristband. Like it's probably looks like a cool, like, here's a giveaway,
Yeah, it's very strategic.
You've been marked. Yeah, no.
And then obviously you get the kids who are like, why didn't I get one? And I'm like, oh, here you go.
Because you're fine. No, because you're the bully. Imagine
right?
like the bullies get a red one.
You're bullying someone. Here's your red wristband.
Yeah.
Gosh, I should do that. I mean, just like really let the teachers know, like, here you go. Like, this kid might be mean.
I've had 10 kids come up to me and say, this kid is the problem. He's the source.
Honestly,
that's really cool. And that's actually like a practical, smart solution you do in real time, which is really neat.
Yeah.
They can follow up with the black bracelet kids.
Of course, yeah, and they always like make notes, and a lot of them, like I said, they're very aware of like the certain kids, but like, some kids stay after and like they stay and they're crying, and like that breaks my heart. But it also like makes me, feel like, I don't know, kind of dark. I'm like, God, these kids are going through so much, and then it's like put onto me, and I'm like, okay, now I go to therapy.
That's just the consequence of like any empath in general, but especially if you're working in that field, like then it comes down to like, okay, your own self-care, like not taking it all on like a sweater and like weighing you down. And it's so much easier said than done. But I think you should just know that is the ultimate sign that you are reaching these kids and you're not coming across crusty and like, irrelevant. And it's like you're actually there. It's working.
I like to think so. So.
And you're wearing a sweet, I imagine that's your merch hat. Is that a Blatantly Honest hat?
Yes. I was like, are you going to talk about my Rolling Stone t-shirt? Yeah, the Blatantly Honest hat. We have some really cool like moon merch dropping. This is kind of like one of the OG hats. So yeah.
I love it. And where should people go if they want to reach out to you to have you maybe speak at a school, or maybe like, I don't know, would you speak at a Zoom event now, but maybe things are getting more back to normal and you can do like regular speaking engagements again?
Yeah, I actually have like a few virtual like meetings, speeches coming up. So yes, I still am doing those. I feel like a lot of people are very receptive toward that still. But yeah, if you want me to come speak at your school or speak at your conference or talk to your group of parents, I do that too. Like, let's get inside the mind of a teenager. Let's learn about TikTok. I do that too.
Do you teach them all? We have to learn this choreographed dance. This is part of it. You'll understand later.
Right. I'm like, we're going to do a TikTok for you. But yeah, so reach out to me via just like MakailaNichols.com or through the Blatantly Honest Foundation. If you just type in Blatantly Honest, it somehow, some way will hopefully find its way to me. But social media, I answer everything. Yeah, I'm very, that's like a full-time job sometimes. But I
It is. Well, you're obviously an angel, and I appreciate the work that you do, and I'm sure the kids do too, and parents. Makaila, thank you so much. And all your social media is just your name at Makaila Nichols.
Yep.
Okay. Amazing. Amazing. Yes. And check out her podcast as well. It's very organized on your website. It's like, you'll write a little blurb about like, it's bullying, but like body image issues too. What are some of the issues that you cover on your podcast?
Oh my goodness. Substance abuse, people who are recovering alcoholics, well, it sounds very, very dark, but it's not.
Hey, like we have to, this is the thing, is like people who don't pretend that darkness doesn't exist in the world and within each one of us are delusional. Like you have to confront your own darkness before you can try to be of service to others. So I think it's a good thing.
Exactly. Well, thank you. Yeah. Blatantly Honest with Makaila Nichols. It's on all the streaming services. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Makaila.
Thank you so much.
Talk to you soon.